Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut. We're going to talk about Pete Alonso and what's going to happen. I'm not a happy camper if this stuff is true, but we'll get into it. But before we get into that, I need you to subscribe and like this video. As you know, a lot of people have been talking about Pete Alonso getting traded, which other than him being a free agent next year, I don't understand it. I just don't get it. His numbers are on par with Hall of Fame sluggers like Ralph Kiner, Albert Pujols, Armin Killebrew, guys that are like legendary power hitters, and there's like and also is a part of my subscriber base that want to trade him. They'll bring up the batting average, which is ridiculous. I'm surprised his power is the way it is this year because he had that bad wrist injury from Charlie Morton back in June, and that needs to be taken into account in terms of batting average. And he had one of the worst, months in the history of his career back in June. Mets had a bad month anyway, but be that as it may, a lot of people were talking about it. You've seen all these articles, and the word I keep seeing is imminent trade. It's ridiculous. This is from MLB.com. Mark Feinsand does this article talking about Pete. Well, the Mets trade Pete Alonso. Here's what MLB executives think. Pete Alonso has been one of the primary faces of the Mets since he made his debut in 2019. But will the Slugger still be in New York when the 24 season opens? I think he will be. He is slated to become a free agent at the end of next season, setting him up for a potential 9-figure payday. I think he'll get a record payday. I think he's going to take this to the edge, and I think he wants to talk to other teams, to be honest with you. I think he likes it here, but I think he wants to take it to the edge, take it over the edge. Quote, the Mets made an offer that, while and certainly wasn't insulting, wasn't one good enough to convince Alonso to forego free agency, said a source with knowledge of the talks. Now, this is, I guess there was talks between the Mets and Alonso. I don't know when. Probably in the offseason is probably what happened. The article continues, but the offseason is a long one. There's no urgency to get something done right now. The Mets could take the same approach they did with Brandon Nimmo. As you know, Brandon Nimmo, he went to the end of the season. The Mets, he went to other teams. It was a little hairy, but the Mets gave him what he wanted. They can also come to terms on a deal for 24. This offseason then reassesses their options next summer when he's close to free agency and they may have organizational clarity. New York's active trade deadline, the Mets traded away Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Mark Canha, David Robinson, Tommy Pham in an attempt to get younger, has led many to project that the club will use 24 as a reset, though not as the start of a full rebuild. I would mention a couple of things about these trades they made. Almost all the players the Mets picked up, they've all played really well. Justin Verlander, they got Gilbert, although Clifford's a little behind, but Gilbert's really played well. Luis Angel Acuna, they acquired for Max Scherzer, has played really well of late. He's really picked up his offense. Mark Canha, they got Jeremy Jackson. No, not Jeremy Jackson. Justin Jobs. He might be the one guy that hasn't played nearly as well. David Robertson. Oh my God, the Marlins just did terribly in that trade. Robinson got taken out of the closer role. And Ronald Hernandez has hit well for the Mets down in the Florida Complex League. He got promoted, and so did Marco Vargas. And Tommy Pham. The Mets got Jeremy Rodriguez for Tommy Pham. He's been in the Dominican Summer League. I would mention the Prospect Hut. Please subscribe to the Prospect Hut. Everything you need to know about Mets prospects is in that channel. So I'll put the link in the description of this video, and I'll put a pinned comment too, so you can watch it. Please subscribe. It's all informational, very little commentary on my part. Quote, I'm not convinced the Mets are ready to tank in 24. The source said they could very well bring Alonso back and essentially return the same offense they had this season. Then sign some starting pitchers to multi-year deals. The first thing they need to do is figure out who will be making those decisions. Now, a couple of things here. Mets need another big bat in this lineup, badly, desperately. Somebody that is a strong right-handed hitter in this lineup. This team is desperate for another bat, and they've been desperate for another bat since the end of the 21 season. I mean, somebody that can bat fifth in this lineup, somebody that's going to bring a real oomph to this lineup. And they just don't have it in terms of the power, in terms of the gravitas. They need another player in here that could really put a jolt into this offense as another option. They're desperate for that. I'm going to keep pounding the table. I'll keep pounding the table until they do something. All right. Owner Steve Cohen will have the ultimate say, though he's expected to hire President of Baseball Operations to take over the department ahead of General Manager Billy Epler. David Stearns, a New York native who ran the Brewers' baseball operations department from September 2015 through October 21, has been viewed as the lead candidate for a while. And until that position sells, it's impossible to say what approach the Mets will take with their roster. With Alonso poised to become a free agent following the 24 season, not to mention salary that has been projected to fall into the $21 million range in this final year of arbitration this offseason, the Mets could explore trade possibilities in the coming months. USA Today reported Sunday that the Mets have told other teams that any player not under contract beyond 24 is available, with some executives saying they expect him to be dealt this offseason. Quote, trading Alonso is likely the most prudent course of action that the Mets plan to take next season as a soft reset, a National League executive said. You know, I would mention that these National League teams, these teams have been getting their heads handed to them by Pete. Pete has bashed them in for the last 5 years. So getting him out of the National League would be something that they would be very happy with. And out of the division, by the way. Quote, it stays in what will be a large 24 salary, and there's no reason they couldn't then attempt to sign him as a free agent after 24. You know, I don't. When do we ever see players get traded and they get signed back to the original team? Very rarely. The return they can expect to receive for 1 year of Alonso has projected salary won't be huge, but it's still likely to be their best approach. No, you let Pete play the season out, and you sign him. That's it. Another National League executive believes there's a likely chance the Mets move Alonso this winter, though not for pennies on the dollar. Like that deals for Verlander and Scherzer, it's possible the Mets could pay down Alonso's salary. And I mean, what is this? What's going on here? What are the Mets, like welfare for all these fucking teams? These executives want the Mets to be like welfare for them? Give me a break. I tell you, these teams have some balls on them. If some of them are coming out anonymously, by the way, saying that the Mets are going to pay down Alonso's salary or anybody's salary at this point. That should have been a one and done with Cohen. Don't let these teams, think that they can pull this shit all the time on every play the Mets are trying to move or not trying to move. It's ridiculous. Alonso's prodigious power, he has 185 home runs in 653 career games, averaging more than 40 homers per year in his 4 full seasons. If the Mets talks with Alonso this offseason don't bring the two sides closer, New York could decide to move the 3-time All-Star for prospects rather than risk losing him the draft pick compensation. Given that the Mets don't have the same payroll constraints as some other teams, National League executive believes they would hold out unless they got a high-end prospect, similar to how the deadline played out. While the Brewers and Cubs were among the clubs that talked with the Mets about Alonso prior to this year's trade deadline, and given the lack of impact first baseman in this year's free agent market, more clubs would likely jump into the fray if Alonso became available. Quote, is there some chance he gets traded? Sure, an American League executive said. There aren't going to be too many bat-oriented players available this offseason as it is a weaker free agent class. Is it a slam dunk? I doubt it. The best Mets team in 24 includes him, and I can't imagine they have entirely predetermined the outcome. A couple of things. If the Mets were to trade, in particular to the Brewers or to the Cubs, you ask for their best prospect. You ask for Jackson Chourio from the Brewers, who's an outfielder, and you ask for Pete Crow Armstrong back for Pete. That's the start. Okay? A couple of things, couple of notes on past trades for big players, and particularly at first base. Paul Goldschmidt, who was the last really big pitcher. Big first baseman that got moved. All the players that the Diamondbacks received, the last player just recently was DFA'd. So all the players that were on that part of that deal turned out to be nothing. So keep that in mind. I can come up with all kinds of trades for these big players, and the teams got nothing for them. And it doesn't matter which team you're talking about. I can go back further to Miguel Cabrera. That was a massive trade, and really those Marlins players that they were the players that the Tigers sent to the Marlins, other than Andrew Miller and Cameron Maybin, nothing of note. And Andrew Miller was only became an impact pitcher when he became a reliever. So he waited a long time to get any kind of impact out of him. And he had moved on to several teams after he left the Marlins, by the way. So just be careful if you keep wanting the Mets to move Pete. A couple other things, like I said at the beginning of the video. When you are compared to guys like Ralph Kiner, Albert Pujols, Jimmy Fox, and those kind of guys in terms of right-handed hitters, Harmon Killebrew, like Keith always says, just keep in mind, guys like Pete Alonso don't grow on trees. And don't be so uptight about the batting average. Keep in mind he had a big injury to his wrist, and I'm surprised that he came back as quickly as he did. He probably should have stayed out a month with that injury that he had. And he's had injuries to his wrist before where he's gotten hit in the hands before. And he's missed time in the minor leagues. This time he only missed a month. But you could tell that there was a big problem with the batting average. I'm surprised that his power didn't get sapped from that. But let me know what you think about this video. I have more stuff here on this channel. Also keep an eye out for the baseball too. I have a different video on Pete that you need to check out. I'll put the link into the description, at least for the channel. And please subscribe. And of course, please subscribe to Prospect Hut. And of course, please subscribe to Baseball Hut and all these different channels. Holy crap. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.